Hello, and welcome to Sacred Ground Community Church in Sangha. This is our program, Fresh Green Blessings. I'm actually going to move up a little bit here. This is our program, Fresh Green Blessings, reading the Judeo-Christian Bible through a Buddhist lens with Mother Earth eyes. And today we will be working with the Psalms and the Gospel of Mark, Psalm 126 and Mark chapter 4. So if you're watching, if you're watching this live, you're welcome to say hello in the chat. I will try to connect to that, pay attention to that. I also will, been running around here. I don't seem to have my glasses with me right this second. If Ollie, if you're watching, you can bring the glasses to me. Otherwise, I'm going to do the best I can here. And we're so glad you could be here. I am Parson Michael, and this is a unique, different kind of Bible study. Our spiritual community melds East and West. We have a strong earth focus. That's going to come through a little bit with our readings today. And we're interested in exploring the sacrality of the Bible, exploring how this ancient text can help inform our lives, but also seeing places where we might be challenging the text or feeling frustrated by the text. All of that. There's no right way here. And we do this with prayer, we do this with meditation, we do this with mindfulness. And so if you haven't checked us out before, I hope you stick around for this session and get a little feel of what we do here with Fresh Green Blessings. I will begin, as I typically do, by inviting the bell to sound. My mic was, I usually have an external mic hooked up. There seemed to be some sort of tech glitch today that it wasn't allowing me to do that. So if you're having trouble hearing me, please let me know in the chats as well. So we'll begin with the bell. And this is a Tibetan singing bowl, and it is an instrument that helps invite us. Oh, thank you so much. It's an instrument that helps invite us into presence, helps invite us into being here in this moment. So I will invite the bell to sound. And you also might hear, as I'm looking beyond you and beyond the camera, we live right by the train tracks. So there's a train going by right now, about to leave, and there may be more here in the time we are together. So in this moment, we're invited to listen with our ears open, without thoughts about the next moment, without worries about anything, and just being in that pure presence that we call mindfulness. We can't always get there, but the invitation is there. And as always, everything we do is an invite. So please participate to the degree that it is appropriate and feels good to you. So right now, your invite is to enjoy this sound of this bell in this moment. I'm not sure how much of the nuance that you can pick up of that, but each ringing of the bell had a little different tone to it. I struck it in a slightly different place, probably with a slightly different amount of pressure. Sometimes when we're doing outside services, the coldness of the metal will make a difference. And everything is moment by moment. And so I love that invitation of the moment. I am going to now invite us into meditation. And if you don't do a lot of meditation, that sounds like such a, oh my gosh, meditation. And really, it doesn't have to feel foreign. It doesn't have to feel strange. It doesn't have to feel even like this, what do I want to say? Sort of, you don't need a rarefied environment for meditation. You can meditate at a red light in your car. You can meditate when you're in line at the bank or the grocery store. It can be just a couple of moments. Of course, we could do longer sitting meditation, but I guess that's my invitation. And the other invite with that is playfulness and lightness. I'm sometimes a little taken aback when I'll go to some sort of meditation group and see how super serious these meditators are. And if it's about being present, calmly, joyfully, there's room for smiles. there's certainly room for a belly laugh here and there, and really just enjoying the moment. Again, we're trying to let go of thoughts. We're trying to let go of thinking, but we're trying to just trying it. Words even fail this stuff. The aspiration, the hope is to just open up to this present moment. So with that, I'll invite you to either put your eyes kind of at a gaze downward a few feet in front of you. You could pick a drishti, pick a spot to focus on, or if you wish, you might want to close your eyes. Either way. And if you don't have a stuffy nose today, I invite you to use nostril breathing and close your mouth and breathe in and out. That might feel a little wonky, a little artificial. You've been breathing this whole time, but now when you're focusing on it, it might feel a little weird. But I'm going to give us a few instructions here and invite you into a little breathing exercise. Before we do, note a couple of things. Let's go to our appendages, our fingers and our toes. I invite you to wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, and then just decide how you want to place your hands in your lap. You might want them face up, you might want them face down, but just a position that's relaxing. I invite you to be aware of your spine. We don't want to force ourselves in some sort of a soldier stance, but we do want, along with the natural curve of our spine, we do want an awareness of our posture, because as we open that up, that allows for really greater presence. As you could see, if you're looking, I've decided to close my eyes. I'm deciding to go with palms face up. And let's just pay attention. And again, you'll hear some sounds. I think I hear a plane going overhead now. You'll hear some of those extraneous sounds. It's fine. Just integrate them in. As we breathe in and out. Breathing in, we notice that we're breathing in. Breathing out, we're aware that we're breathing out. Breathing in, we might breathe a little more deeply. Breathing out, we might breathe a little more slowly. In deep. Out slow. I invite you to imagine that breath is going all the way down your belly, all the way down into your hips. Breathing in. And allow yourself to relax on that out breath. In calm, out relax. Might start to notice where there's some tension in your body. I feel a little tension in my upper back. You might feel it in your neck. You might feel it in your legs. Note where that tension is. Breathing in aware. And breathing out, begin to release. Envision bringing fresh oxygen to that place of tension. Breathing in aware. And then let gravity do its work. Breathing out, release. In calm, out present. In calm, out gentle. In aware, out receptive. In relaxed, out relaxed. In smile, out smile. In present moment, out joyful moment. In present, out joy. In deep, out awake. In alive, out alive. We'll just take a moment of calm. As a person, as a mindfulness instructor, as a yoga teacher, one of the things I do is I allow myself to go into the process. And oftentimes, that opens the door for others to come in as well. If I'm inviting myself into presence, it becomes an invite to others. So you might want to think about that if you're doing meditation on your own or if you're doing it with a friend. If you put yourself in the space, that helps to open it for others. And almost everything we do with Sacred Ground, within the first 6-7 minutes, as we do that little bit of centering, guess what happens? I'm more centered. And so while I'm doing this, hoping it's of benefit for some of you, and also recognizing that everything's not for everybody. I do it knowing it's of benefit to me and hoping it's of benefit to some of you. I like this idea of centering and calming as a precursor to sacred reading. Reverend Howard Thurman, African-American mystic from the 20th century, he's around from around 1900 to 1980, he spoke of this. He spoke of bringing that meditative calm to our Bible reading. And so again, those of us who've been looking at the Bible for a while, we know there are pieces that are, oh my gosh, inspiring. And then there are pieces that are disturbing, troubling, frustrating that we, at least that I certainly feel obliged to push pretty hard against. But to do all of that from a place of center, from a place of meditation and prayer, and I really see meditation and prayers melding together, that I find helpful. So without further ado, we'll get to our readings. And our first reading today is going to come from the Psalms. And we're doing a psalm each week. And so as we do a chapter of Mark, we're now on Mark chapter 4, and we're on Psalm 126. And I am going to read the psalm to you, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. I'm going to read a couple different versions. I'm going to read the New Revised Standard Version, and then I will read the King James Version. And super awesome. I have my mom. My mom is 95 years old. This is her Bible from before she was married in the 1930s, with her maiden name on it. I also have a King James Bible of my mother-in-law with her maiden name on it. I use both of those quite a bit. So that's just very lovely. You know, my mom happens to be living right upstairs with us, and so it's kind of cool that these two, and my mother-in-law does too, and so it's pretty cool that these two women have given me these copies of their Bibles that I can then use for my own growth. So we'll start with the New Revised Standard Version. I'll read it through, and then I'll read the King James, and then maybe I'll read the NRSV again. And these are short. This is a short psalm, so I'll read the whole thing, and I'll try to read it mindfully. I'll try to read it prayerfully. I'll try to read it slowly. And to help me be, again, focused, I'm going to invite the bell to sound before the reading. And here comes a train, I believe. Enjoy the sound of the train and the sound of the bell. Psalm 126, a harvest of joy. A song of ascents. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. Then our mouth was filled with laughter, and our tongue with shouts of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we rejoiced. Restore our fortunes, O Lord, like the watercourses in the Negeb. May those who sow in tears reap with shouts of joy. Those who go out weeping, bearing the seed for sowing, shall come home with shouts of joy, carrying their sheaves. The King James, Psalm 126. A song of degrees. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue was singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them. The Lord hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. You may have noticed when I read the New Revised Standard Version, there's first a title, A Harvest of Joy, but then it says A Song of Ascents, Ascents. So ascent, like a song of climbing. And I learned that this is a part of a series of Psalms, beginning with Psalm 120 and all the way through Psalm 135. Every time it says a song of ascents. And there's, we don't know what that origin is for sure, but there's a few different theories. One idea is that it could have been sung by the Levite priests as they were ascending the steps toward the temple. So that was, to the court of the Israelites, So as they were ascending those steps, that these may have been, Psalm 120 to 135, may have been special psalms for the songs of ascent. Another theory is that that these psalms were sung by the returning exiles from Babylon as they went up to Jerusalem. So that's the second theory. The third theory, which is, at least in this reading, the most widely held, is that these 15 psalms, these songs of ascent, have to do with pilgrims going up to Jerusalem for the annual feasts. And you could read about this in Exodus and Deuteronomy and Kings. And as I looked on those, it looks like there were three major feasts where people would go up to Jerusalem to make offerings, and that would be the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So we have the Passover time, but then we have the Feast of the First Fruits and the Feast of the First Grains. I point this out. One is just because it's information, but another is to remind us these are outdoor people. These are an agricultural people. And as we listen to Psalm 126 in particular, and of course we find this in so many Psalms, in so many readings. I mean, it is really hard to open a page and look at 2 pages of the Bible and not find references to nature and the natural world. My focus as when I was in seminary was on eco-theology, and I am deeply committed to eco-spirituality and eco-theology, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes, but I want to go to Psalm 126. Restore our fortunes, O Lord, like the watercourses in the Negev. May those who sow in tears reap with shouts of joy. Sow, S-O-W, and reap. When I was in high school, I played high school football, and I remember up in the locker room, there was a sign up that says, "What you sow is what you reap." I was, taking the college prep courses, but sow and reap were not part. We were a blue collar community just outside of Youngstown, Milltown. Words like sow and reap were not part of our standard vocabulary. I think I went and looked them up so I would understand what it meant. So here it says, may those who sow in tears reap with shouts of joy. This points to something else that I absolutely love about Judeo-Christian tradition. This is a non-linear theology. What do I mean by that? It is connected to cycles. It's connected to seasons. It's connected to ritual. It's connected to traditions. We could look at the ritual and tradition. We're in the Lenten season right now. And so I'm reading this book by the late Father Edward Hayes about the 40 days of Lent. Well, guess what? Last year, I read a different daily reflection by Father Edward Hayes for the 40 days of Lent. And the Lenten season was happening before I was born, and it will continue after I'm dead. There will be a Lenten season. There's going to be an Easter season, right? And there's going to be Easter, which is going to come in the spring, right? It's going to come at that time. There's a specificity with this in terms of the first full moon after the spring equinox. It's tied with the seasons. And I think in modernity, we have tried. We have tried to become a linear people. Hey, what's your 5-year plan? And 5-year plans are fine, but we're not linear beings. We came from the dust, Ash Wednesday. We're going back to the dust. We grow up, we get big and strong. We grow old, we get weak again. We go back to the earth. We are part of something that is going round and round. We're on a spinning ball in space, which is part of these planets spinning around this little sun, which is spinning around this Milky Way galaxy. We are in these circles within circles within circles within circles. And we could go, of course, down to the atom and molecular levels, and we're going to see those same spinnings as well. And a lot of our focus at Sacred Ground is on getting outside. And right now where I'm sitting, I can see oh gosh, I don't know, about 6, 7 trees out my window. A lot of branches. No straight lines. Even closer, there are a number of plants on the table behind this computer. A lot of bends. No straight lines. The invitation for us to enter into the circles or helixes, right? We come round, we get closer to things, we feel connected to things, we feel disconnected, we come round again. I absolutely adore this aspect of the Bible, that it invites us into the nonlinear. May those who sow in tears reap with shouts of joy. Here's the thing. Those who sow will reap, but then they will need to sow again and reap again. And there might be another season when one sows in joy and reaps in tears. This is a very positive psalm, though. And in verse 6, it closes, those who go out weeping, bearing the seed for sowing, shall come home with shouts of joy, carrying their sheaves. And what do those sheaves have? Food. They go out with these measly seeds, hard, dry, and somehow we place them in the ground and new life comes. There are so many people who want to take Christian tradition, Judeo-Christian tradition, and divide it from the earth and make it all about the spiritual realm, the heavenly realm. Spiritual realms, heavenly realms, wonderful. But please do not separate your spirituality from the earth, from your body, from the changes that we necessarily go through, from the changes of the seasons. I invite you to think about and consider and just enjoy how we change with the seasons and our spirituality grows and develops with the seasons, not in a straight line. It may ascend, and maybe we can even take these songs of ascent. Maybe we can't even speak of ascending with that helix, but it's not straight lines. I'll invite the bell to sound. I'll read the psalm one more time. First, the sip of tea. Before I read the psalm, I'll share what I consider a sacred line from Wendell Berry. He said, the Bible is an outdoor book. It is best read outdoors. And the further outdoors, the better. And then I'll quote a Tibetan Buddhist teacher who said, when people have no sense of a wide open sky above and a lush green earth below, it is very difficult for them to expand their vision. I believe the purpose of this book is to open us to vastness, expansiveness. And I do not see this as a text in conflict with Mother Nature, but I think we can utilize this in concert with moist Mother Earth. One last reading of Psalm 126. A harvest of joy, a song of ascents. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. Then our mouth was filled with laughter, and our tongue with shouts of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we rejoiced. Restore our fortunes, O Lord, like the watercourses in the Negeb. May those who sow in tears reap with shouts of joy. Those who go out weeping, bearing the seed for sowing, shall come home with shouts of joy, carrying their sheaves. I invite these last two verses for them to be prayer for us, prayer for all people who are suffering. Victims of war, victims of oppression, victims of violence, victims of hate, those who are suffering from fear, those who are suffering from mental distress, those who are suffering from neglect, those who have hurt within them. I'll say these lines, and then if you're listening, you might want to just whisper them to yourself as well. And this could be a prayer that we do together for everyone. May all those who sow in tears reap with shouts of joy. Those who go out weeping bearing the seed for sowing shall come home with shouts of joy. Carrying their sheaves. Thank you to the psalmist who wrote Psalm 126. We're going to continue Mark chapter 4 in a moment. And first, I'm going to do a little movement, invite us to move about a little bit. I do this most weeks in between the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. So I'll stand up here and let's see here. So I'm going to invite you to just bring your arms up over your head, and I'm going to invite you to grab your left wrist with your right hand and keeping your chest kind of facing up to the sky. Bend a little bit, let your hips go a little bit to the left and your shoulders to the right. And breathe. And then back up. Wiggle the fingers. Left hand, grab your right wrist and bend a little bit. And smile and breathe. And back up. And I invite you to bring your hands down at your sides. All the way down. And I invite you now to link your fingers behind your back and to spread your feet out so they're about hip width apart. Be aware of your back, and I invite you to, as if you're almost trying to squeeze a pencil in the middle of your back, just kind of get a nice stretch that way. And then I'm going to invite you to bend forward. Now, be careful here, depending upon your condition. If you have some sciatica and that, I'm not going to bend all the way down because I do have some lower back issues, but I'm going to bend just part way, bend halfway. So I'm going to invite you to bend halfway or part way. And just imagine that you're looking in a pond and have those hands going out back. And feel that nice stretch in your shoulders. Keep a nice space between your shoulders and your ears. Looking down into that pond. Oh, that stretch feels so good for my shoulders right now. And then come back up. And bend your knees and bring those hands back up. And I want to make sure I'm not too close to the candle. And then swish those hands back. Back up. And swish those hands back. Back up. And swish those hands back. And now I invite you to stand facing forward and hands out in front, kind of like mummy arms. Wiggle those fingers a little bit. And then back up. Wiggle. Left hand, grab the right wrist and stretch a little bit this way. And again, try to keep your chest open, looking up. You might feel that down in your hips. You might feel it in your upper back. And then back up. Wiggle. Right hand on left wrist. Bend a little bit to the right. Let those hips go a little bit to the left. Try to keep that chest open. And keep breathing. And back down. Wonderful. I do this little yoga bit. One is, it's part of my training as a yoga instructor, but why include it as part of the Bible study per se? Well, back to the nonlinear, back to the earth connection. It's pretty easy for me. I'm a guy who loves ideas and thoughts. It's pretty easy for me to get caught in ideas and to just become sort of like this thought machine walking around, thinking thoughts, and to forget that I'm in this body. And I really think of the yoga moves and the meditation is almost like a form of embodied prayer. And so we are of the earth and of the spirit. And so that balance is part of what I want to invite you into. I'm going to read from Mark about the sowing of seeds. And if you are even minimally familiar with the Bible, this is going to be a familiar reading. One of the things that I love about our melding of Buddhism and Christianity is how these two beautiful traditions can kind of expose different facets of the gem to each other. And so rather than just starting with that Bible reading, it's like, oh gosh, yeah, I've heard this story a gazillion times. I'm going to start with a reading from one of our teachers here at Sacred Ground, the late Vietnamese Zen Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh. And this is from the first book I had by him, Pieces Every Step. It's a great, great book. And I'm going to read just a couple of pages regarding seeds. Oh, and I thought I had the page lined up, but there we go. This, if you want to find it later in Thich Nhat Hanh's Pieces Every Step, the title of this one, I'm going to just read part of this little essay, is Nourishing Healthy Seeds. And again, as I read the sacred text of Thich Nhat Hanh, I'll also invite the bell to sound and invite myself into pure presence. Enjoy the bell. From Thich Nhat Hanh's Pieces Every Step, Nourishing Healthy Seeds. Consciousness exists on two levels, as seeds and as manifestations of these seeds. Suppose we have a seed of anger in us. When conditions are favorable, that seed may manifest as a zone of energy called anger. It is burning, and it makes us suffer a lot. It is very difficult for us to be joyful at the moment the seed of anger manifests. Every time a seed has an occasion to manifest itself, it produces new seeds of the same kind. Just like the natural world. If we are angry for 5 minutes, new seeds of anger are produced and deposited in the soil of our unconscious mind during those 5 minutes. That is why we have to be careful in selecting the kind of life we lead and the emotions we express. When I smile, the seeds of smiling and joy have come up. As long as they manifest, new seeds of smiling and joy are planted. But if I don't practice smiling for a number of years, that seed will weaken. And I may not be able to smile anymore. I'm going to share a little aside. He says, we have to be careful in selecting the kind of life we lead and the emotions we express. Thich Nhat Hanh is very careful not to ever encourage anyone to suppress their emotions. When those unpleasant seeds arise, he invites us to be aware of them, to recognize them, to allow them to be, without necessarily expressing them or nourishing those seeds. So, okay, anger is here. Hello, anger. You are welcome here within me. I know you. I've known you before. And even that process helps to lessen the anger. So please don't get the idea that he's in any way advocating suppressing emotions. That actually, as he says in other places, just makes those seeds all the stronger. Back to this section. There are many kinds of seeds in us, both good and bad. Some were planted during our lifetime, and some were transmitted by our parents, our ancestors, and our society. In a tiny grain of corn, there is the knowledge transmitted by previous generations of how to sprout and how to make leaves, flowers, and ears of corn. Our body and our minds also have knowledge that has been transmitted by previous generations. Our ancestors and our parents have given us seeds of joy, peace, and happiness, as well as seeds of sorrow, anger, and so on. Every time we practice mindful living, we plant healthy seeds and strengthen the healthy seeds already in us. Healthy seeds function similarly to antibodies. When a virus enters our bloodstream, our body reacts and antibodies come and surround it, take care of it, and transform it. This is true with our psychological seeds as well. If we plant wholesome, healing, refreshing seeds, they will take care of the negative seeds, even without our asking them. To succeed, we need to cultivate a good reserve of refreshing seeds. We're each going to have specific ways that we cultivate good seeds, nourishing seeds, helpful seeds, healing seeds. For me, reading sacred texts with an open heart, meditation, prayer, exercise, time in nature, laughter with friends, sharing with you all of these practices, singing songs, all of these practices water beneficial seeds in me. Now, with that kind of fresh perspective on seeds, let's read Mark chapter 4. Oh, is that my phone? Mark chapter 4, verses 2 through 9. Jesus began, I'm going to begin with the bell. Thank you. I say thank you to the bell. I looked and the bell reminded me like, hey, don't you want to invite me to sound? And now more sacred words on seeds. Mark chapter 4, verses 2 through 9. Jesus began to teach them many things in parables. And in his teaching, he said to them, listen, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seed fell on the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where it did not have much soil, and it sprang up quickly, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. Other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. Other seed fell into good soil and brought forth grain, growing up and increasing and yielding 30 and 60 and 100-fold. And he said, let anyone with ears to hear, listen. And now Mark chapter 4, verses 2 through 9. the King James Version. And Jesus taught them many things by parables, and said unto them in his doctrine, Hearken, behold, there went out a sower to sow. And it came to pass, as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. And some fell on stony ground, where it had not much earth, and immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. And other fell on good ground, and did yield fruit, that sprang up and increased, and brought forth some 30, and some 60, and some 100. And he said unto them, He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. And finally, a third reading, a third version of Psalm 4, verses 2 through 9. And this is from a book we've been working with, a recent translation of the Gospels by Sarah Rudin. And he taught them many things through analogies. And this is what he told them in his teaching. Listen, look, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, it happened that some of the seed fell along the road. And the birds came and made short work of it. Another seed fell on a stony place, where it didn't have much earth. And right away it sprouted and rose up, because it didn't have any depth of earth. But when the sun rose up, the seedlings were seared, and due to their lack of roots, they withered. Still other seed fell among the thorny weeds, and these came up and strangled the seedlings, which didn't produce any grain. But other seeds fell onto good ground and produced grain, which came up and multiplied, with one kernel yielding 30, another 60, another 100 more. And he said, Whoever has ears for hearing had better hear. And I'll allow for a couple of moments of silence. And if anybody in the chat has anything they'd like to share about those readings of the seeds, especially after hearing the Thich Nhat Hanh readings, you're more than welcome. The first thing I'm reminded of is what I said when we were reading the Psalm. These are agricultural people. You may or may not do some gardening in the backyard, or you might have a farm, but these people knew about seeds in their hands. And they knew that every seed doesn't produce. And they knew that a single seed could produce an abundant crop. There's an explanation of this parable given right after in the same chapter of Mark. And that happens a lot in the Gospels, happens a lot in the Gospel of Mark, where a parable is given and then an explanation of the parable is given. And along with some others, I tend to think that those explanations, while they're part of the teaching and they're part of our potential for learning, I invite us to question whether those are original to Jesus. Because usually a teacher who wants to share in parables is interested in layers of meaning and recognizes that there will be a multiplicity of understandings. That actually is a reason why a teacher will sometimes share in parables, because of the different needs of different listeners. I, of course, am not privy, I don't know, but I like to think that Jesus spoke often in parables because he wanted to give those layers of meaning. I have worked as a storyteller for years, and I've always recognized that if I have 50 people in the audience, there's 51 stories. The story I'm telling and the 50 listeners each have their own. With symbolic meanings, there's layers and levels. This doesn't discount the meanings that are given in the Bible itself. I think those are powerful, but let's not stop there. Let's not stop Jesus there. One of the things we find again and again is that this teacher turns to the natural world and draws from it to help his students and disciples. We have a lot of stories of Jesus going off by himself into the wilderness, into the desert, alone to pray. And it is clear that he was one who was very observant of the natural world, taking it in and seeing how it could be teacher. And I think that in some ways that's forgotten or lost, that idea that we too can go in or out into the natural world for teaching, if we have ears to hear and eyes to see. I'll offer a little prayer here. O great sacred, may we ourselves be planted in rich soil. May we, as the gospel writer says, understand the value of roots. Understand the importance of the environment where we are. May we be aware of the thorns within us and around us that may attempt to strangle our best efforts at growth and manifesting what is worthy. And may we be helpful, enriching the soil of those around us, helping them so they're not seared or scorched. May we help each other to avoid rocky ground. And at another level, may we, as Thich Nhat Hanh suggests, plant worthy seeds within ourselves, water and nourish them. And to the extent that we can, avoid nourishing that which is unhelpful. We give thanks for these ancient teachings. We give thanks for these opportunities to wrestle with sacred text, for the incredible blessing of being able to bring ancient traditions like Buddhism and Christianity into dialogue and dance with each other, that we may be the bodhisattvas in training, the children of God, that the Buddha and the Christ have called us to be. And that quiet voice in our hearts does call us to be. And if we find ourselves sowing or reaping in tears, may we remember with the psalmist that seasons change, that you are with us, that we shall ascend. Please help guide us. Keep us wondering and open and humble, curious and compassionate, kind, open to the vastness, and helpful to all beings. Open to the wonders in your sacred texts, open to the wonders of this sacred earth. Peace and amen, and amen, and amen. Thank you for being with us for this session of Fresh Green Blessings, reading the Judeo-Christian Bible through a Buddhist lens with Mother Earth eyes. We'll be back again next Wednesday at 4, and we'll have Psalm 127 and readings from Mark chapter 5. Hope you can be with us. Peace, blessings, and may good seeds be watered in you and I and all beings. Peace and amen.